Why is your house not selling? Must be a pretty common phrase because, as you'll see in this article on the screen, one of the top Google searches right now is can't sell house. And they're showing that the frequency of that phrase is higher than it was during the Great Recession, which would be '08 to 12, basically. Now, I want you to know something. That's a doom and gloom headline. That's designed to make you click on it. Can you please let your local realtor tell you that yes, you can sell your house, even though it might not look like what you expected? That's what's changing is our expectation of selling. So real quickly, let me give you a reset. During the COVID years, between 2020 and let's just say 2024, because things did start to really cool off. Well, they started cooling off in 22. But anyway, when the COVID stuff started happening, prices shot through the roof because everybody seemed ready to buy a house as long as there was internet nearby and they could work from home. And all of us that had been in real estate were thinking, this is absolutely nuts. Well, during that time, a lot of sellers knew that if they even thought about selling their house, just like when you think about buying a pair of shoes, suddenly they appear on all your social media sites. You, as a home seller, thought about selling, and suddenly your text thread blew up with the mom from the soccer team who said, hey, we want to buy in your neighborhood. Or, God forbid, you mention it on Next Door, and suddenly you had 1,000 realtors like piranha around your house. Or you had buyers coming out of the woodwork. So everybody thought houses sold lickety split every single time. What was forgotten is that historically, a normal market would have about 6 months on market. That's what we worked with in the dark ages, long before this weird COVID market. And frankly, 6 months would have been fine during that same 2008 housing crisis that Google was talking about. So, what has changed is that we're not in the COVID market anymore, but our brains remember those days. Now we're having a reset in the marketplace, which means a lot of our buyers feel like they're back in 2010 when you can get 30% off a house. Spoiler alert, you probably can't. And a lot of our sellers are stuck in 2022 mode of, if I stick a sign in the yard, I'm going to have a whole passel of offers and I can just pick the one I like and merrily go on my way. Neither side's expectations have been reset, which is one of the reasons these articles can scare the life out of you. So let's break it down real quickly, shall we? What you'll see in this article is that this expert who wrote this for MarketWatch says, I got to get my glasses to see it. Homeowners are advised to maximize exposure through multiple listing services. So that's number one. If you want your house to sell, it should be in the multiple listing service. But I want you to know something, friends. If you have hired an agent or a firm who does not put your house in the multiple listing service, that should throw up a little red alarm bell on top of your head, because the multiple listing service is not some place of collusion or any of that foolishness. It is a marketplace for real estate that is accessed by professional real estate pros who go there to make sure they've got all the options for their buyers, and they put their listings in there to make sure that they have gotten their sellers the maximum exposure. So if you're working with a company that says they don't play ball with the MLS because they want to hold your listing in their little hip pocket for private people, you should ask yourself if that's doing you the best job, because in a market that has stabilized and is continuing to stabilize, the buyer for your house might not be inside that private network. They might be outside with some tiny independent boutique brokerage like me. And I want to make sure that my buyers see everything, and I want to make sure that every buyer sees mine. So you've got to make sure you're asking really smart questions about that multiple listing service. It's not enough if your agent belongs to it. You have to make sure they are utilizing it every single time. Now, the second thing that this author recommends is enhancing your online listing. All right, so let's talk about that very briefly, because if number two is enhancing your online listing, that could mean what I consider to be the bare minimum, which is professional photography. The difference between a realtor with a cell phone and a professional photographer usually has to do with lighting, because that cell phone can't always capture the best of that room because you don't have the best lighting, nor yet a tripod to stabilize the shot. I love my professional photographers because they have a creative eye that sees the room differently than I do, because I'm the person who always drew my birds like an M, because that's my level of creativity, but I appreciate the beauty others can create. So number one in this number two item is to make sure you have professional photography. Now, if you're thinking that digital and virtual staging might be the key, I'm going to make sure you have an asterisk on that because it depends. It depends on what you put in the room, and most importantly, it depends on if you disclose it, because I have worked with buyers that will look at the photos of a house and then they get there and it is not even remotely close because the agent, in the instance here of using lots of digital improvements, changed the house so much that the buyer said, this can't even be the same house, and they don't really give you the benefit of the doubt. I wish people did. We're not in that world right now. They will actually walk away from your property because it didn't reflect what they expected. We call that cognitive dissonance. They were expecting one thing and got another. Now, when you're looking at the digital tools, could it include some enhancements such as for lighting? Absolutely. Could you do some virtual staging and a really good ethical agent makes a note that says this room was virtually staged? Absolutely. In fact, I love it when an agent will post an empty living room and then a furnished living room side by side and make a note, this one was virtually staged. That is so honest and awesome. And I love it when the tools are a benefit to a professional who knows how to use them. I'd also point out that there's ways to enhance with video to let the system visualize what a room could look like, because maybe it's got great bones and needs your personal touches. So the digital AI tools could show what it could look like. Again, making sure that everything has disclosure, that this is a coulda, woulda, shoulda, ain't there yet kind of a look. Now, the third thing this author mentioned to make sure your house sells is, oh, what does that say? Oh, hire experienced real estate agents. What? Yes. As it turns out, your house, you, my selling friends, your house is not a commodity. No matter what the internet tells you, that house is more than its bedrooms and bathrooms and square footage. That house has all of these wonderful little characteristics and quirks and wonderful tidbits and benefits to the buyer. A lot of times is what you fell in love with. And so when you're in love with something, you might have a hard time letting go. And so the experienced real estate agent helps you make the transition from house to asset that we're liquidating so that you could start thinking about all of the necessary steps. And we also know that you live there, and so an experienced real estate agent is going to help you manage the process of transition, which includes the worst part of selling a house, which would be showings. And then let's also consider that an experienced real estate agent probably has been through multiple market cycles. They remember, as I do, because we have a little PTSD about the big recession, because every house was having to reduce because we were chasing a ball downhill. Right now, when we have sellers that are reducing, it's often because the neighbors started a price war because they had to sell more aggressively than you did, or maybe you just thought you would shoot on the high side and see what happens. When the markets are stabilizing, you don't get to shoot on the high side anymore unless you have some really compelling reason to do so. An experienced real estate agent will know how to help you work through the pros and cons and the A's, B's, and C's of outcomes. That does not mean that you don't hire some early career realtor, because there are some super fantastic one-year realtors. The key for that person without experience, do they have a broker or a mentor that they can go to who's going to coach them through the process so that they can help you achieve what you want to do, which is getting the sign in the yard and get the house sold. That's just a couple of tidbits about this one article. Just a reminder, these are national articles, and there is no national real estate market. Real estate is a hyper-local business, and the way that it's perceived has to do with your property, your neighborhood, your schools, water, sewer, elected officials, all of those things, and your experienced realtor can help you sort through all of that. So if you're looking to buy or sell in North Carolina, you can call your girl, and if I don't service that area, I got somebody who does. And if you're looking outside of this area, I've got a whole network of amazing experienced people who can help you out, because as it turns out, an experienced professional realtor is a way better place to go for information than Google. Make sure you hit the bell. I'll see you next time.